This is an official presentation of SDR Insider. Welcome to Mac and Zach in the Morning, your home for all things sales, business development, and beyond. With over 4 decades of combined experience in the field, please welcome your hosts and daily practitioners of the craft, Mark Mack and Zach Bauer.
We're here.
Here we are.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 15. Is it 15?
Yeah,
15. Wow. So, you watch other episodes of other shows, and some are on 135, and some are on 55, and 255, and 1,000, or whatever. We're on 15. All right, people, 15. That's all it is. We just started. So each and every day, we're thinking about some new stuff to bring into the mix, some new people to bring into the mix. What's up, Luke? Oh, man. Haven't seen Luke in a long time. There he is. Awesome, man. Hope you're doing well. We got a hot guest coming in today. I think she just said she was from Dallas or in Dallas, but from Miami, Florida. What a definite culture change to go from Florida, Miami, Florida, that is, to Dallas. I'm sure that's really different. But Adrianna Vidal coming in from Stylo, SDR, BDR, obsessed with sales, senior SDR, working at Stylo these days. Let's bring her in, man. Let's bring her right in. Let's get right to it. There she is. Awesome.
Hey, morning.
See, look at that. You like me. You're wearing the sweatshirt, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't live. I usually have 2 sweaters on, honestly.
No doubt. That's
I'm
your
cold, but it looks a little weird on camera, so decided to just have the one today.
Yeah, some people are like, dude, is it like, don't you have heat in your house? Or like in the summer, they're like, don't you have air like, why are you? But in the summer, the funny thing is my wife, she keeps keeps it like 62 degrees, in here. And I have to still wear this hat.
Like my fingers hurt. Like they're so cold. I can't.
Yeah, I wear the sweatshirt. Like I have like 9 of these, and I just keep trading them out every other day. And
yeah,
I wear them all day, and people think I'm nuts because they're like, "What's wrong with your temperature in your house? You have no temperature control."
Or people sometimes, if I've like met with them a few times, they'll be like, "Do you just wear the same thing every day?" I'm like, "Well, I wear the same sweaters. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have a whole collection."
I'm not afraid to admit that I wear like, let's say, the same jeans like 2-3 days in a row max.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that's normal though.
Oh, is it? Okay. I was like, I thought I was just like, I don't want to like, because you put jeans, like, especially jeans in the wash, you can only put like 3 or 4 of them in whatever, and so it gets piled up. Like, how do you, my wife, she's crazy. Like, I see these, like, this big pile of laundry, and then she has it broken up into she has it broken up into 5 little tiny piles. And I'm like, that's 5 washes and 5 dries. I'm like, that could be like 2 if you just put them together. And I'm not talking about mixing whites and darks. I'm talking about
I was getting a little suspicious.
No, she separates out like a whole lot of different things. And she doesn't even separate. She just does it because she's like, well, it gets cleaner, or it's like it doesn't get clean if there's so much in there. Why did I buy you a high volume washing machine, man? Like, I don't understand.
So the planet, one load at a time.
One load at a time. I wish I had multiple. That would be pretty cool. Like, I'd own a laundromat. I probably wouldn't be here right now. But welcome, Adrianna. Awesome, man. So I actually, I would love to dive into, how you felt after the Dooley thing, and then now you're at Stylo. But I really want to know about what's Lilac Tech. Let's talk about
that. So basically, when I first got on LinkedIn, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I just know that I wanted to like post for other people who were looking for jobs and other people who were kind of like new to this like tech and sales development world. So I really ended up getting just like a lot of messages from people who were job searching, who like had a lot of the same kinds of like repeat questions, especially, and just didn't really have very many people to like reach out to, didn't really have that community. So Lilac Tech right now is just a job search support group, basically, like for aspiring SDRs. So it's super fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I bring it up because obviously, like, we're SDR insider, right? And
Mm,
so I think Zach and I, one of our missions was really just to help SDRs feel better about what they're doing on a regular basis. If we could help people get jobs like that too, that would be great. But
mm,
I love how you niched out on that, because trying to find the job, like, we see it every day on LinkedIn, right? People posting about trying to break into SaaS, or
yeah.
or that they're 42 years old and they're trying to change careers or something like that. And so, and SaaS, I guess, and tech sales, like, kind of like the thing was, is like, it's very hard to get into. Like,
Mm,
everyone's like, oh, each job description says you got to have 2 years of SaaS. Well, how the hell do you get 2 years of SaaS if nobody
yeah.
will hire you without SaaS experience? And so, the fact that you're providing support to SDRs, not only just to find jobs, but like with us, it's like we're just trying to support people in general, because we know how difficult the job is. I mean, people must think like I'm crazy. I'm 49 years old and I'm still banging the phone, if you will. I mean, I found what I do best, and I hope to help
Yeah.
people do it too. But yeah, it is hard, Julie, and but it doesn't have to be, right? Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And I think, support groups like Lilac Tech and others is real important. What is the one thing, like, is it one or two, or let's just call it the top three things that that you are hearing from aspiring SDRs, what they're struggling with, and how do you help them? Like, what do you say to them that's helps them get over?
Yeah. I would say like the main reason why it's hard is kind of not even really like related to being an SDR or applying for jobs. It's really just like this shift in like most of the people who are trying to become an SDR, like they've never had to do this kind of job search before. So it's like going from, just like applying to jobs with like Easy Apply or on Indeed, things like that, and having to shift to like actually doing outreach for the first time ever, like cold calling hiring managers, is like such just like a foreign idea. And I don't think that it's a lot of people are open to the idea and they want to do it. They just don't like know where to start. Like, how do you even get a hiring manager's phone number or email address? And so I think that it's like not really understanding the steps is where a lot of people just get confused and then they end up just not really doing anything because they don't even know where to start. So mostly I get questions on like being able to reach out to hiring managers. What companies should I apply for is something that I get all the time. And then also those like second, third, and fourth round interviews can get really confusing, especially, because it is kind of like a very different hiring process than a lot of people are used to. Like, and
Mhm.
I kind of had the same experience of like logging into third round interviews with VPs and they were like they're in a t-shirt and like just wanted to ask me about my life. And I was like, what is even going on? Like, this isn't even an interview. So I think that it can just kind of I don't know, I guess just like catch people off guard, like to how
Yeah.
different the interview process is than any other job that they've had. And I think that that's really the hardest thing to get past.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the like, okay, so you said, they don't know like how to reach out, or they don't know, like, um yeah, like, you're like, they don't know how to, like, they don't know what to start. Like, what's the first step? Like, I don't know about you, but I tell people, like, make a list of all the companies that you want to work for, and then
Mhm.
spend the rest of your life trying to get this.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure you're a bit
No,
more
I
tactical. Can you shed some light on that? Like, when they say, I don't know what to do, what do you say?
Mhm. Yeah. I think that there's a couple of steps that you can kind of take. I think one is like get your LinkedIn looking good. I would say like that's kind of step one before anything because every hiring manager is going to look at that. So if you can have your LinkedIn profile really like telling a story of like, your past career, like what your current goals are, what you see yourself doing in the future, that's going to kind of go a long way to like working for you when people do click on your profile. Once that's done, then you can kind of like move on to, reaching out to people. And I think that cold calling managers is something really, really great to do, because no one does it. So I think it's like the few people who are brave enough, and like will go out of their way to invest the time to do something like that. I think it's a super easy way to book interviews, once you kind of get past the weirdness of like cold calling people for the first time. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, like I would say, genuinely connecting with people on LinkedIn who like whose companies you really believe in, whose content you actually think is interesting, and just like starting interesting conversations with them, I think is really like the easiest way to go about it too. I mean, send voice notes, send little custom videos to people, comment on what they're posting. It's not really that complicated. I would say just make a plan, like you mentioned, like having a list of companies that you really want to work for, and then kind of looking for the people within that company that would be the most valuable for you to connect with.
Awesome. That's definitely awesome advice. I love how you're really just you. I mean, high school dropout, community college dropout, retail sales, property manager, and somebody at Men's Warehouse took pity on you and gave you a job
Yeah.
renting tuxedos. I love that. How much do you think, like, I mean, did you ever like study any kind of like copywriting or like literature or anything like that? Like, how do you create your content? Like, how do those words come from, Adriana? Where does that come
Yeah.
from?
Um, Everyone asks me about the copywriting thing, and I'm like, I'm so honored that people think that. I've definitely never
Yeah.
taken like any like official kind of copywriting class or anything like that. That being said, like I have always really liked English literature and everything. For a really long time, I wanted to be an English teacher. I thought that that's like the route that I was going to take with my career. And then I realized like how shit the salaries are for teachers, and I was like, you know what? Never mind. Like I'm gonna have to find a different career. Sorry guys. So yeah, no, I've always really enjoyed writing. English was always kind of my best subject in school. Anything that I could write, I would do. If it was like a multiple choice assignment, that was not getting turned in, which was like a big reason for me dropping out. But yeah, I mean, I don't really like plan my content in any like real way, honestly. I just kind of keep my like notes section on my phone as my like general like place to save things. So I'll write down like random ideas, or things that I've seen other people talk about that I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's make a post on that later. Sometimes I'll write posts in advance, especially if I'm feeling like very inspired that day. And then I'll just save them, and post them when I'm
Yeah.
ready. I do try to post every day, but at the same time, it's like I also don't really like stress that much if I don't post for a day,
Right.
because honestly, like LinkedIn is always going to be there,
Right.
and it's hard making content. Like
It
it
is.
really is, even if it's something that you love talking about.
I guess like what I always say, I tell people, or I tell myself, like if the day goes by and I'm just deep in work and I'm like, just
Mhm.
just doing things for the job, and I don't post, it's probably because not that nothing is inspiring to me that day. It's just I don't like you said, I don't plan them out. Like I don't
Yeah.
buffer, and like write 4 or 5 and then like schedule it out. I think if you do that, you probably wouldn't. If those people who worry about it do that,
Mhm.
that's the difference,
So
right?
I
Like I
do
don't
I
worry
do
about it,
sometimes
so
schedule them. Um,
uh,
because sometimes I just am feeling inspired that day and I'll write like 10 posts in an hour.
oh,
Um,
okay,
and then
that's good.
other days there's just like, there's nothing there. But I typically try to do that for like weekend posts if I like don't really plan on being on LinkedIn, but maybe I like want to talk about something.
Right,
Or like Mondays especially because they can just be like super crazy.
yeah,
So things like that, I don't think that there's
yeah.
really any like real strategy. But it's like, hey, if you have ideas, like just put them on the calendar, and they'll post.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point I was using some tool, not Buffer, but I was using something that used to give me like feedback and stuff. I
Hmm.
forget what tool it was, but it was pretty good. Like you could schedule stuff. You can only do like, I don't know, it was weird. I think you can only do LinkedIn. Like I couldn't do Facebook or something like that. But regardless, it was weird. I don't know. Like I just feel like when I have the idea, I write it, you know, and like if it is at the middle of the night, I'm at the mercy of trying to remember, or I'll just take down a quick note. Like I'll write in my book here, post, you know, ... and then like the topic, you know, and so hopefully I remember what I wanted to say the next day, and I'm like, oh, I don't even remember.
Yeah,
I was like, it was so good in my head, and now I can't remember.
I had the perfect post, the one that would have gotten like 1.2 million views or something, and now it's gone. I do think it's kind of funny. I have noticed that, like specifically with LinkedIn, there's kind of this like weird culture around like not scheduling your posts because then it's not like authentic, and I find that really fascinating because I mean, previously, like I've done a lot of social media for like small businesses, and it's really par for the course to like schedule posts months in advance sometimes, for like Instagram and Facebook, especially like ad campaigns and things like that. I don't know, I feel like LinkedIn is like a little bit behind the times with that, but I do try to write every day. I do think that like coming up with something or just like putting down your thoughts like does make it a lot easier to write posts on a consistent basis because you're kind of like always thinking about it then.
How much of that though is because LinkedIn is trying to encourage engagement on those posts, right? Like people talk about like the post and ghost sometimes. Have you seen that have kind of a negative impact? Like if you schedule a post on the weekend, you're not around, you're actually out there enjoying life. Like how does that affect things?
Yes and no. I don't think that the scheduling of the post is the problem. I think it's the fact that, like you said, people like schedule a post and then they aren't really on LinkedIn. So like I have noticed that if I schedule a post for like 8 a.m. and then I just don't log into LinkedIn at all that day, that post probably is going to do very well. But if I'm up at 6 and I can comment on some LinkedIn posts and interact and kind of like get some engagement and commenting done in the beginning of the day, and then it's scheduled to post at 8 because I feel like more people are going to see it then I don't really notice that. So I think if you just kind of like still don't let your engaging with other people's content drop, or at least like try not to let it be affected so much, but it's like if you want to post at like a certain time, then I think that's fine too.
Excellent. That's awesome. I definitely feel like though one piece of advice I try to give, because I think it relieves the stress, is if you don't have anything to write or you don't have anything to post, don't worry about it. Just don't post. Go and just maybe engage or go outside and enjoy the weather. You know what I mean? Like don't stress about it. It's the last thing in the world. Look, a lot of people might be listening out there. Some do, some don't have family, meaning like, wife, significant others and kids and things like that. So maybe they're single, they have more time to do it. But even then, don't stress. Like that should not be your worry. Like that definitely should not be what you should be worrying about. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I didn't post today. What's going to happen? Because like I've just, if anybody's noticed, like I've increased posting. I'm doing it almost 3 times a day now. And my like views have gone significantly down. And I'm like, why? Like I'm posting
The whole
more
LinkedIn
now.
algorithm has been crazy lately though.
But that's why I don't think
Very,
about, like I
very
say
weird.
why for a second, and then I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Whatever. Like
It's not like we can do anything about it anyway.
I
So
know.
it's
It's not like I'm sitting there shouting it from the
Yeah.
rooftops, losing my voice, I'm just
sure.
trying to be me, and
Yeah.
like if even if it's 300 people, like I'm okay with that, right? Because I'm just like, that's my audience, and they want it. I keep delivering it. That's all that matters, I think, and if it doesn't get 1 million likes or 50,000 likes, I don't give really a shit
For sure.
about that. So I have obviously I made a post this week because I've been following him for a long time, and I like to think we're from the same tribe, of course. But and he always posts a lot about himself, which I love. It's very authentic. But talk to me about what it's like for working for Ronan.
Oh my gosh. Ronan is amazing. He's I get scared to like call and stuff in front of him because it's like his tone is so nice. He's so perfect on the phone. Sometimes we'll like log into Nux and I'm like, I don't want you to like see my calls. Um, but no, I mean, he's fantastic. Like he knows so much. He's worked at so many
Yeah.
startups, kind of working to like scale the sales teams and everything. So it's so funny. It's like I feel like any kind of question that I would have, like he just always has an answer like ready to go. Like you cannot stump this man. But yeah, it's been
Yeah,
awesome
he's
so
just
far.
bullshitting you, man.
Maybe, but I mean he's a great
That's the
bullshit
Jew in
job.
him. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
my
That's
gosh.
like me too. No, Jesus. I love him, man. He's really awesome.
Mm,
And again, like I said, I love when he posts things about his family, his beautiful family,
yeah.
and he's just really genuine. And yeah, he definitely has a lot to offer. I've gone up against him in cold call competitions and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's been a lot of fun. But talk to me a little bit about, or talk to us, excuse me, a little bit about the transition. Like so you know, obviously you got let go from Dooley, but is that kind of where Lilac came from? You were just like, I know I need to get a job, but I can also help other people get a job. How did that work out?
So I guess Lilac didn't really like come out of the Julie layoffs, specifically. I just kind of noticed that like I was getting so many messages, and a lot of them were like the same kinds of questions. And most of the people who were like job searching, they could find people like me who like write posts about looking for SDR jobs, but they didn't really have anyone else who was like kind of in the same position that they could talk to, that they could kind of like bounce ideas off of. So that was kind of just something that like developed over time. And I was like, okay, we're just going to put this all on Slack now, so everyone can like much more easily talk to each other. And that's been awesome. But yeah, I mean, so I started as an SDR in January,
Mm.
working for Beyond. So I was there for I think like 7 months or so in total, but 4 months in, I got moved to account executive. And then I decided that I didn't want to work at Beyond anymore, because I did kind of, I don't know, just want to work for like a company that I felt like was more interesting. They're like property management tech, and it
Hmm.
was a great company. I liked working there, but I just didn't want to talk about property management anymore.
Hmm.
So I ended up actually messaging Saad on LinkedIn, and he was the BDR manager.
Hmm.
So I was like, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" Like asking for a friend. And he was like, "Yes, let's talk." And so we had like a 10-minute conversation, and he was like, "Fantastic, you're hired." And then 2 weeks later, I was laid off, which really, really sucked.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, it was like very surprising to everyone that was like on the sales team. But
Mm.
Ronan scooped me up like 2 hours after I made a post about being laid
That's super cool. I
off.
mean, that's a lesson
So
for everybody to know. Just keep yourself going out there, keep putting it out there, and job security.
yeah,
So
for sure. I don't want to encourage anyone to post because of like purely selfish reasons. I just feel like that's kind of like the wrong way to think about posting.
sure.
But at the same time, it's like I do think that it's just so valuable at this point, especially with like how many layoffs has been happening. Just kind of like how unpredictable a lot of startups can be, of like if you do have a community that you can lean on, where it's like people, even if they don't have a job to offer you, like they're willing to make introductions to other people. They're willing to like go out of their way to post about you, things like that. Then it's like you kind of always have something to kind of fall back on.
Yeah, it's I call it your body of work, right?
Mm,
So like you have your job, you have results there,
yeah.
perhaps, you hit quota, you were rookie of the year, president's club, whatever it is. And then you have more, I think more, even more tangible things that tell people who you are, like your
Mm,
content, or even if it's, like I would even encourage sometimes an SDR, if you had an SDR role before, you think you're good at it, you're looking for another SDR role, send them some call recordings. Hey,
mm,
check out my call
yeah.
recordings. I can prove to you that I'm really good at what I do. Whatever. I mean, I just like, the one thing I know that I hadn't done in years past was document, right? Like everyone says document everything, record everything. And, sometimes that's a little bit tiresome to be sustainable, to be consistent with it. But it's so true, because then you could just, you don't have to talk then, you don't have to have a resume, here's my like, I'd rather give that, here's my body of work, you tell me if this jives with you, as opposed to like, here's my resume. And and most people don't write a resume properly, right? Or even LinkedIn properly. They talk about what they do, right? Like, oh, this company does this, that, and the other thing. Great. Well, what did you do there? Like, and what did you, more importantly, what did you accomplish there? Like somebody once told me that, like, when they look at a resume, they look for progression, right? Like, did you progress? I find it really difficult to see that in a lot of, no offense to everybody that's in tech sales, but in tech sales, when you jump in 6 months here, 5 months here, a year and a half there, 2 years there, like, how do you, I find it difficult to see progression of success. Like, it doesn't look like you're getting any better. It looks like you're just jumping from job to job to job. And so, it's just interesting. I mean, you said you came from real estate. That's fascinating, right? We see a lot of that, a lot of teachers coming over that lived their lives making that 45, 55,000 or whatever it is. And now all of a sudden they're breaking into tech sales, making 70, 80, 90, and they're like blown away.
Yeah.
Right. So, definitely some interesting stuff. I was going to ask, is Lilac Tech a community, but it looks like you're really, the prospecting club is the community. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so they're both communities, just for different people, basically. So Lilac Tech is really like my baby, and it's really for people who are like either looking for an SDR job or trying to get their first SDR job. Prospecting Club is actually run by Anthony and Landon Meyer, so that's kind of their baby, and I just help them with the like community aspects. But basically, that's a community for people who are already SDRs, but who maybe like want a community to bounce things off of, kind of like throw ideas back and forth, do call blocks together, do like coaching events together, things like that.
Cool. It's awesome.
It's very, very cool group. Like there's a lot of talent floating around in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it amazes me sometimes too. Just like the amount of like meetings people will book in a day, or like the emails that like ideas that people will post, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did you even think of this? I'm stealing it now. Thank you.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you have, where else are you going to learn, right? Unless you're practicing, unless you're sharing ideas. I mean, I didn't have this kind of community stuff when I was 25 years old. And that's why I kind of like enjoyed being a part of them in some cases, and like offering whatever I can offer. But every single time I'm involved, I learn something new.
Yeah.
Every single time. It's amazing. And I use it. Like just the other day, I was, like last week I was on, or 2 weeks ago, I was on Kevin Hop's show, Hop on Calls. And he used a line. Actually, I was on the show, but then it was last week, actually, it was somebody else on the show. Oh, no, this week. It was Jack Knight. But I heard Kevin use the line. Somebody asked him, what's this about? Like, what is this regarding? Because I mean, you probably get that like at least 5 or 6 times a day, right? What is this call regarding? And he goes,
Who are you?
And he goes, work stuff. I was like, what? Did he just say work stuff? And you can't hear the other side of the call. So, but you could tell what happened on the other side of the call. The guy started laughing. He was like, work stuff. He's like, and then Kevin laughs and he's like,
That's
well,
honestly
yeah,
hilarious.
And later on, he explained that, and what he explained made sense. He goes, if you just start to like, okay, what's this call regarding? Let's say you're not actually talking to the person yet, right? Like maybe somebody's gatekeeping or whatever, and you say work stuff. What is that person supposed to say? If you just launched into like a little bit of your pitch, like, well, I'm calling regarding seeing if he's interested in learning about XYZ, right? They're probably going to be like, well, the best way to reach him is email. Right? You would do that even if you weren't instructed to do that for your friend or colleague. You'd probably be like, you'd hear that person, he wants to pitch, you'd be not getting lunch break if you pass it on to your boss. So you're like, oh, no. But if you just say work stuff, or like sometimes I've gone so far as to say, well, it's a personal call.
Mm,
They're not going to say that, necessarily. They're just going to pass it through. But
yeah.
like if they do and it fails and I get crushed, okay, no worries. But he said work stuff. I loved it. I loved it. And I used it yesterday a couple of
I'm
times
definitely gonna use
and
that.
it
Yeah.
works.
See how it
Because
goes.
it's, what it does? It stops them. They go, work stuff. What do you mean
Mm,
work stuff?
yeah.
Okay. Well, now I've
How
gotten
far
them
are
to
they going to dig into that?
right. Well,
Work
you
stuff.
get them to calm down for a second because
Mm,
they're waiting for you to kind of give them a little pitch and then say no. But if
yeah.
all of a sudden you just go, it's work stuff. Do you have a second to talk work stuff? He's like, I'm
Yeah.
already in work stuff. I don't need to talk about it. I need to do it.
Oh my gosh. I think that it's also really interesting, just like all of the different strategies that people use. It's like you were mentioning, like I would have never thought to say work stuff on a call. On It's never even crossed my mind for a second. You know. But I definitely
Yeah.
think that like being able to like mix and match different strategies from different people does like ultimately make you a better caller.
Yeah, like I never really used at first the a permission based opener.
Hmm.
And honestly, like I never thought I had to. Like my opener was, "Hey, this is Mark Mack. How's it going?" And people used to say, "Oh, you can't say how you doing." And I'm like, "I'm not saying how you doing. I'm saying how's it going." That's different. That's not
Yeah.
asking how you are personally. I don't know you. I'm asking how's it going? Meaning like how's your day going? How's the world going around you? Like that's what I'm looking for as an answer. Actually, I don't really care what their answer is. I just want to slow the conversation down when I first
Mm,
start. And I ask that question. And every single time they would say either, yeah, I'm good. What's going on with you? And nothing. Thank you for asking. And then I launch into it. Or they'll go, what's this call regarding? Right away. And so I think
work
like
stuff.
when I started the PBO though, although I wasn't like, a connect and sell 27-second guy, like I just, I think it works 100. I'd say 99.999% of the time. Like if you go in and you say, hey, this is a cold caller. I know I'm an interruption. Do you mind if I take a couple seconds to tell you why I've called? I don't think maybe once, maybe twice, I've had somebody say, nah, I really can't talk right now. Call me back
Mm,
another time. But no one ever said like, no, click, they always like, okay, like it's still such a pattern interrupt, no matter how you say
yeah.
it. And I changed it now. So now I tweaked it because somebody else told me something and I picked it up. Right. And the
Mm,
thing I use now is, hey, do you mind if I take a couple seconds to tell you why I call? What I hear in the background, their disposition is like, why did you ask me? Kind of like just talk. And I'm like, and I chuckle and then I go, well, my mom always told me, to ask permission when I interrupt somebody. So, and then they
nice.
like fall for that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's beautiful. It's like now you get whatever you want, you can say
Mm,
whatever you want, and it's nice. It's like, they'll tell you, then they'll listen and then they'll tell you if they're interested or not, or if they're not the right person or not. And so
yeah.
that's what you want. You want that outcome. But
Yeah.
I think too many people worry about that beginning piece. And I've picked up a lot over the last couple of years just associating with you all. Zach, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I like to play around with like goofy things sometimes just to make people light up. Like recently I've been saying, hey, this is a chili call. Can I crack the egg or would you like to scramble off the phone?
Oh my
And then they
gosh.
like, and if it lands, like they just laugh, right? And then like the ice is broken, like good to go. And sometimes like it falls flat on its face, and it's one of those things like if you have to explain the joke, it's not funny.
Yeah.
But you got to get creative with it.
How about grandma?
Oh my gosh.
I had somebody tell me the other day, I'm not even kidding you.
Mm,
They say, I don't know if they've actually used it. They claim they've said it once or twice, but I don't think so. They say, hey, I know this might sound weird, but I think you might be my father.
oh my god.
And I'm like, if I said that with my accent, I think the guy would definitely, or somebody, whoever it is, will hang up immediately. Like
Yeah.
they won't even acknowledge that. Like I think they'd be so scared. I said one time somebody said to me, how did you get my number? I took this also from somebody else, but I think it's really funny. How'd you get my number? You see that van, that white van on the corner?
Oh my god.
That kills. That kills. Like if you say that, I've said it once, but I immediately was like, nah, I'm just kidding. Like I think it was, I don't know who it was, but I don't know if she was gonna get scared or not. And I was just like, I say it, but I say it, I'm just kidding right away. And then like I could swear I could tell some people probably looking out the window immediately.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta have fun, man. You know,
Yeah.
like if you can make people laugh. I mean, I tend to, my shtick is like, I just relate. I typically look at like where they live, and I hope to have some. If I've never been to the state or I don't have a story about that, I just say that. I go, hey, that's like the one state I don't have a single story about. I've never been, like Oklahoma. I have no idea what I would say to somebody from Oklahoma. I rarely call somebody from Oklahoma. I mean, I think Zach, you have, because you used to call for Bushel and they were like grain elevator people. So he was probably calling Oklahoma and Kentucky all the time. But yeah, it's a, I just play around with names. I had my sales ops guy once pull a list of all Marks.
Oh my gosh.
I would just all call Marks, and my opener was like, hey, Mark, it's Mark. Also, I see you sell. I said, I spell my, if it's a K, M-A-R-K, I say, I spell my, don't sue me. I didn't get a chance to choose how I spell my last, my name. So, I spell it with a C. So they laugh at that. It breaks the ice. Yesterday, I had a guy, Matt Milner, works for a company called Back Bar Project. Don't call him. He is I caught him by saying, hey, you double M, just like me. And he laughed and he was like, yeah, that's funny. It's not that funny, but it's funny enough to get him to break the ice, And he's like, oh, I'm in an interview. He's like, can you call me back later? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I think the lesson there, I think as soon as I got him on the phone, I was like, so how did it go? Did you hire that person? I didn't launch into like my stuff. I just asked him about what was going on. Cause I'm trying to find out if he's in growth mode. And so, hiring tells me he's in growth mode. So I was confirming that. And that's how I led in instead of my normal pitch. And I booked a meeting, I mean, it was actually, he booked it with me. He insisted to book it. I'm like, it doesn't sound like this is a good fit. Sounds like you got everything kind of squared away. He's like, no. What do you mean? Okay.
Okay.
You want to learn a little bit more? That's great.
Adrianna, what
funny.
makes a successful day as an SDR?
Yeah, I mean, I would say ideally meetings booked. But I think as we all know, that doesn't always happen. I would say if you set goals for yourself in terms of like activity or getting things done, and you cross those off and you feel like you really gave it your full effort, then I think that's a successful day.
Yeah, you be confident that you did something that something along the lines of the day it worked. Something worked. And if it meant, and if what worked was that you got 17 tasks done, or you sent out 50 emails, or you just accomplished things. I mean, don't just do things just to do things for activity, but you should feel confident. You should feel like satisfied that you got things done. Obviously, if you're sitting around just wasting time and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not good.
I used to talk about like, it's the job is really hard, right? SDR job is hard. If you don't have certain tools or you don't have good data, it's even worse, right? So you're not getting people on the phone, or you're not, getting the right, the emails aren't popping or whatever. But I think it's learning. I used to think meetings, I used to think deals and dollars and all that stuff, but I think it's because the world is changing so fast and trends are changing so quickly. One day it's cool, one day it's not. That if you just walk away from your day and say, what did I learn today? Did I learn something about my vertical? Did I learn something about my persona? Did I learn something about myself? That, hey, I just can't do this, or I can't do that, or I'm not good at this, or I need training in that, or I need coaching in this. self-awareness is very important. If you can pick up and be aware of maybe where the day went wrong, like analyze the day and go, you know what, it was a busy day, but I really got like I've closed days where I said, you know what, I was very distracted today. Like I got into this call conversation, and then all of a sudden, I took an extra couple of minutes for lunch. It's like anything. Like you just look at the day and you go, man, it wasn't successful, and that's okay. But learn from that.
Yeah.
Learn how to empower yourself for the next day. I think is important. How do you get over, like, I'm sure you've been in slumps. No, I mean,
Oh, for
nah,
sure.
probably not.
Yeah. I mean, no, it does happen. I think that, the important thing is like making a plan and then actually doing it. Um, so I mean, even for me, like in this new role, like it's been a really huge adjustment, like calling support people. It's like
Mm,
not a like an industry I know very much about. It's just, it's like calling salespeople is totally different because it's like I know exactly what they're thinking about. I know all the stuff that they post on LinkedIn. Like I know, everything that they could possibly worry about.
mhm,
So it's like, that feels very natural. Whereas it's like calling people who are in support, it takes a lot more research. It takes a lot more like time
mm,
for like me to feel comfortable calling those people. And just like knowing that like I'm gonna be able to, react and like respond well to everything that they, might throw at me.
mm.
And I think that that does make it really hard to like stay motivated, especially when you're at a company that's really small. Like I am the only SDR and there's
Oh,
only
wow.
3 people on our sales team in total.
Wow, I
So
didn't know
it's
that.
like, most days, like I don't have people, like I don't have anyone to call with that's like calling the same people that I'm calling for the same product. And it is really hard to like stay motivated and honestly like get shit done,
How do you
which is
like
part of.
Nooks? You said you
Oh
use
yeah,
Nooks.
I do love Nooks. And that's part of why like why I do really like, the prospecting club, and like Next Connect recently launched, which is like a whole bunch of SDRs from different companies that can all call together in Nooks. And
Mm.
things like that are really fun. I do think that like calling with other people just makes it way more fun, and being able to like have a little community even if they don't really, like work for the same exact company. So
Yeah, so but you said it's Ronan, yourself, and you said there's only one other SDR or two other
um
SDRs?
no, so we recently hired a VP of sales, so he's the only other person like on the sales side of things right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
small team.
we
I
are
didn't realize
looking to
that.
expand probably like next year, but for the moment, yeah, it's really just me.
Well, hey, listen, if you're killing it and that's the idea, right? Like I think one of the problems that
Mhm.
some companies do, and I mean, sure, maybe they get funding, and
Yeah.
when you get $10 million, you probably like, oh, let's hire a lot of people. And it's but I think it's better. Start slow, prove out,
Mhm.
replicate, and then hire.
Yeah.
It's like make sure you're hitting because why bring somebody in and while you're still testing the messaging or still testing the process or the funnel? It doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like us, like we're in the process of hiring, but we're doing it very methodically.
Mhm.
Like we have a certain amount of accounts and we know we're bringing in a certain amount of revenue, and
Yeah.
if all of a sudden we take on an SDR that's whatever 60K plus, everything else, it's like, okay, well, now we're back in the hole. Why? Let's make some money
Yeah.
first. Let's get profitable. Let's make some profit, and then like let's have some operating capital, and then because then, like, yeah, if you've got this great idea and you're like a unicorn or whatever, or you're like visible, and then all of a sudden you have investors coming, like my owner is actually a private equity investor himself. So like I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure we're not going to just jump right into it,
Yeah.
invest, like a round, because then they just take your company and, you know, take your idea, and your idea, if your idea is that unique, but you build up a company and you have some sustainability and you have a way to replicate success, then you're worth something. Then take some money if you need to, but then start hiring more people so that a person like you, it's like, that's what's going to happen, Adriana. You've been proving out the model, right? You've got a VP of sales, you got Ronan, you got whoever, and then your next two people are going to just be replicating what you've been doing that successfully, and you'll be able to help and train and coach them and grow with it. I think that's the beauty of startups too. Like if you are the first SDR or second SDR, and you could help them really fine tune everything, and then when you start bringing everybody else in, you could really skyrocket your career at that point.
For sure.
Then you write your own ticket.
Yeah, and that was really exactly why I joined Stylo, aside from Ronan. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think it's such a like unique opportunity. I did expect this to be a challenge. It is definitely harder than I expected. And I expected it to be really hard, but it is even more challenging. And it is exciting at the same time. Like, I think it is really scary, like being the only SDR, because it's like, no one else knows exactly what you're going through, what you're doing. Like, there's not really anyone to like kind of, go back and forth with, commiserate. But it
I mean, are you
definitely it
getting
is very unique.
are you getting the feedback from management that says, hey, we like what you're doing and you're doing a good job? And as long as you get
Yeah, for
that every
sure.
once in a while, I think every once in a while. I say that because there's people out there who don't even do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are single SDRs out there that are, I say single SDRs. I meant SDRs that they're only SDR in the company, and
Yeah.
their management never talks to them. They only say, how many, what did you do today? Or how'd you do
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah. No,
But it's
I do
weird
feel
though
like
when
our
you do
team is
get
so
praise and
very
you don't feel like Josh, he tells me sometimes, oh man, you did awesome today. And I'm like, okay. But I got to do awesome tomorrow too.
yeah.
So,
And all the days after that, like
but he tells me, and I don't know, I'm very humble about it. So,
mm,
like, I don't really say nothing, but yeah, it's important. Positive feedback's important. So when that's
yeah.
why, like, I mean, I'm mentoring a girl now who's, trying to get into tech sales and stuff. And
Mhm.
um, I think it's like, I told her, I'm like, I don't want you I said, what I think is best for you is not to go to a startup.
Yeah,
She's
no.
like, because she had a couple of startups in her queue or whatever. And I'm like, honestly, like, I think you could probably be good at this job, but I think it's better to maybe go to a company that has at least a proven
Mhm.
SDR team, people on the team that have success or have had
Yep.
success that you could feed off of and you can learn from. And maybe at some point down the road, you could go again and do a startup and be the number one person in. But I think it would be better for you to have a place that you could go to that you can learn from other people, and they have like some level of onboarding and training and stuff like that. I think it's
Yeah.
important when you're brand new.
No, I agree. I always say, like, I think that there is like kind of the perfect like size company. And I think that's usually between like 150 to like 500-ish people, but they're like still growing really fast, because if you join a company that is like a little bit on the like smaller side, not Salesforce, or anything that has like, 30,000 employees, I do think it does give you like the opportunity to grow in your role a lot faster than at a big company. But yeah, I would never recommend, if I had joined a startup or something as like the first SDR as my first job, I would have quit and been like, sales, this is not for me. Like, no, sorry, see you guys.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you don't know like the basic fundamentals of the role and like how to do it, on a very regular and like repeatable basis, like going to a startup that, hasn't proven product market fit, like may not even know,
Uh,
who the right person is that they're prospecting to, like things like that. It's very overwhelming. So
oh
yeah, I
yeah.
totally agree with you, Mark.
I mean, there's companies out there. This is what we preach here at Carrot too. Is like we're we boil it down to a very simple philosophy. It's the right person with the right problem at the
Hmm.
right time.
Yeah.
And we talk about, it's, you could fix, some companies literally have been in business for years and still don't know really what is the problem that they solve and who they
Yeah.
solve it for exactly. And so their team is like touching all these people all around the real person that has the problem, and maybe the real person that has the problem they really can't get in touch with. That's okay. You could create that echo chamber and have champions and help you get to the right people. But It's like the timing thing is the biggest problem. And here's where I try to blend sales and marketing, because whether it's Facebook ads or Google or SEO or website or inbound, outbound, sales calls, cold calls, emails, LinkedIn, it's all in conjunction with each other to try to find that person at the right point in the buyer's journey where they're willing to have a fruitful conversation with you. If they're not ready to engage, then it doesn't matter if you cold call them or you send them a programmatic campaign, display campaign on their on a website that they're visiting because you paid for the ad. They're not ready. They're not ready to have a meaningful conversation. It's very important, and it's very hard to do. And that's what makes our job as SDRs really hard, because we're tasked with, call them. How many times you call on a list of 300 and you only get 20 people who answer the phone? Well, you still got 280 more to go, and then you wind up having 60 or 100 people who never answer the phone. So what are you going to do with those? Well, then you got to move those to like some kind of digital campaign, in order to maybe attract them. So the job is hard. It's becoming very complex. I mean, technology sometimes makes it easier, but could also make it harder. What kinds of tech do you guys employ over at Stylo?
Yeah, I do think that's interesting what you said about like technology making things easier but also harder. Because I don't think it's necessarily like the tech that SDRs are using that's making it more complicated. I think like that side has gotten a lot easier. I thank God that I was not an SDR like 10 years ago. But at the same time, it's like, think of all of these things. I know, like, I'm sure it was like way more of a grind now, like now I can just upload a list and it'll like call itself,
You know
that's
what?
pretty
You know
nice.
what list I was uploading back in the day? The yellow
What?
pages.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat on a phone book before.
Yeah,
That's really
exactly.
my set
That's what it's usually used for, or
It's just,
like
in the car. Yeah.
in interrogation rooms or whatever back in the day.
by the
Yeah,
way,
I mean, look, I
that's
ran a
where I
whole
tell
team.
people. Oh,
What
Go
was
ahead.
that, Zach?
go ahead. Just say that's where I tell people I find their phone numbers. If they ask me, where did you get my number? Well, the
Oh
yellow
my
pages.
gosh.
I get to
Nice.
laugh usually. But
That's funny.
See,
I
I'm
never
saying
used
that one
that.
today for sure. Where'd you get my number? Oh, you know that yellow book? The yellow book?
yeah,
That's what they call it now, right? It's not called the yellow page, it's the yellow book.
yeah. I mean, either way would work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, I mean, I ran a sales team back in 1998, 99, an IT consulting sales team. There was 8 of us. And for the first 6 months, I ran that team with no computer, no CRM. We had index cards that were custom made, name, number, wife's name, birth date, little box in the corner for what the meeting date was going to be. I had this little plastic stand up on the desk that I put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday meetings. And you'd like, you'd get up, you'd ring the bell, you'd put +1 up on the board, and then I'd fill out the card and I'd stick it on my little stand up. And
Mhm.
it was like, that was our CRM.
Yeah.
It was index cards. And I used to think, like, I remember we had a closet, a coat closet, and in the closet, of course, there was coats, but
Mhm.
on the floor was like boxes and boxes and boxes of these cards. And I was like, and somebody would say, "Do you have a data warehouse?" And I'm like, "Yep, there it is, right there. It's in the closet." God forbid it was a fire. We were no
Yeah.
more business
Lose
continuity.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it was a lot of
But
fun.
I do think that things just like are changing so rapidly now that it's like that's really what makes this job the most difficult, I think, like especially, even just like how much has changed in the past year, like how fast like call openers get, really stale so fast, or like certain email things like prospects start getting tired of because they've seen it like 40 times already. So I think like trying to kind of stay ahead of things is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I mean, but it has to be authentic too, right?
Mm,
What's
yeah.
authentic? Well, it just has to sound natural. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the other day, it was so weird. I have the same typical opener. It's like, "Hey, this is Mark Mack. How's it going today?" Great. Okay. Well, we don't know each other, but I was calling for a specific reason, and I think I said, "Hey, this is Mark Mack. we don't know each other, but I'm calling for a specific reason. And I thought I had the tone right or the intonations, but maybe I sounded a little monotone.
Mm.
I don't know. And he was like, "Hello? Is this a real person?" And I was like, "Whoa, yeah." And he's like, "Dude, you sounded like it was like a recording." And I'm like, I literally said to him, I'm like, "That's the first time I've ever heard that." I was like, "But shit, I'm gonna go
No
back and listen."
robots here.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna go back and listen to that because maybe you don't realize sometimes how you sound. Like you have to
Mhm.
be self-aware, and I'm typically very self-aware of how I sound and what I'm saying. And it's taken me years to really adopt that talent, that skill to
Yeah.
be able to hear myself. And so when he said that, I was like, "What?" But I remember like one time I called a guy that I had already spoken to. This is really funny. I had already spoken to him. We had a good conversation. He told me to call him back. And then when I called him back, I caught him like he was he works in an airport, right? Whatever. And so he would happen to be in the terminal or something.
Mm.
And I was like, "Hey John." And he was like, "Hello." And I'm like, "Hey John, it's Mark." And he hung up and he's like, "I'm not interested." And he hung up. And I'm like, or I might have said it's Mark from wherever I was calling from, right? And because my uptone like that, he thought I was a telemarketer and he hung up. And so
Yeah.
I text messaged him. I said, "I guess I must have sounded like a telemarketer. Ha ha ha. But it's Mark. We spoke the other day. You know, I was just trying to get in touch with you." He called me right back. Call me back right away. And he kind of lied to me too, because he's like, "Oh, I was in the I was in the terminal and we get bad signal in there. So okay, yeah, but that's not what you said. You were like, 'I'm not interested,' and you hung up." And I didn't call him out on it. I was like, "Hey, no need to apologize.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay." But tone
Keep
is
your
so
secret.
key, right? And so when
Yeah.
I say tone is so key, it's like, yeah, some of these openers are getting dry, but if you sort of mold it to your own
Yeah.
personality, then it won't be dry. You know what I mean? It won't get stale. Like it's
Yeah.
just you, and it
For sure.
becomes natural. So yeah, no, listen, it was great talking to you. We definitely loved having you on.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
who are you following these days to get solid SDR advice? We'd love to tell the rest of the community who each of our guests are actually following or worth following.
Yeah, I mean, I love the
And
guys
Ronan don't
from
count, so
Okay, I will yeah, I think everyone should be following him
of
though.
course.
So definitely Ronan. I would say Nick and Anthony, for sure from 30 Minutes to President's Club. Absolutely love that podcast, honestly. Like I would be lost without it. So I would also say like I do really like Landon Meyer's posts. I think that, they're just like really short, really fun. Always has like some interesting ideas. And then I also really love Jess V. She's a SDR at
Cool.
Trainio. I think she just has such an interesting story, so I think everyone should follow her too.
Isn't that Jesse V?
Yeah. Good
And
call out.
Eddie? Isn't that's not the same? Is that a different
No,
Jesse?
no, no,
Oh
no,
no, no,
just you.
yeah. There's Eddie B and then there's Jess V. And I'm sure there's some other ones, but definitely different people. I do love
Oh
Eddie
yeah,
though.
she's not. She's at BDEX. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
so cool. Adrian, I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks for having me.
been cool. We'll be back next Thursday. I think Julie Smith Nestor is joining us
Oh
Oh,
man,
nice.
next
hot.
Thursday. Yeah.
I do want to add one thing before we jump out, and this is unrelated to Adriana, but you could take it for what it's worth to Adriana. I was given a book, like a manuscript the other day that within the first like 5 pages I was drawn in, and I it takes a lot for me to really get drawn in. And I think part of what drew me in is it calls out a lot of the bullshit that goes on LinkedIn in a way, and I think it's quite interesting. It started off with writers without niches or starving artists. Without niches. Writers with niches are category kings. And here's a little expert. It's called The Snow Leopard. And if anybody in the audience wants me to send this to them, I've been given permission to send it out. I've read the first chapter yesterday. And I couldn't stop. And I wanted to read the rest of the book, but I haven't been able to. But it says legendary writers, the ones who stand the test of time, create a category of one. They're snow leopards. Regular leopards, the ones with golden fur and black spots, spend their entire lives competing against each other. They look the same, they act the same, they move in groups, they seek acceptance. But the snow leopard does none of these things. In fact, it's rare to even see two snow leopards together. They stand alone. Most writers, communicators, creators, and leaders in every industry spend their entire lives trying to be the best regular leopard they can be. They believe their goal is to be fastest, the smartest, or the most cunning one in the pack. But no matter how fast, savvy, or smart they become, they're still just a regular leopard, one of many. They're stuck
I don't know why
playing the
regular leopard is so funny to me.
yeah, they're stuck playing the better game, and the value of their existence sits in the context of their competition. The big secret to becoming a legendary writer, creator, entrepreneur, or builder in the world is that your goal is not to play the better game and strive to be a newer, faster, smarter version of what everyone else is, a leopard. Your goal is to be a different type of writer altogether. Your goal is to become a snow leopard and to dominate your category of one. I read that and I was like, fuck, I got to read the rest of this book because I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And then the first chapter it starts off about talking about like debunking thought leadership as a term and forward thinking. Everybody who thinks they are thought leaders aren't. And it's a really good book. If you think some of the stuff you see on LinkedIn and other platforms from some people are just nonsense, I think you'd enjoy it. So anybody out there that wants me to send them this, definitely check it out and I'll send it to you. It's a PDF. It's pretty long, but it's long because it's a PDF. I think if it was an actual book, it would only be, maybe 50 or 100 pages, but it's a lot long. It's like 200 pages on a PDF. So, but really good stuff. Really appreciate you being here today. And thanks for spending the time.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys. See you later.
All right. Take care.